Hey, Farouk.
Hello, Professor.
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, I'm okay. Good to
How are,
see you.
how are you feeling now?
I'm
I
okay.
think,
I'm alive. I'm alive.
I think you were sick.
Yeah, no, I was the couple or last week. I did not feel well at all. I had a little fever. No COVID. Took the COVID test. No COVID. So that was good.
Okay. That's good that you're healthy and we have a Zoom meeting today.
Yeah. Yeah. How you been? How you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
I just wanted to have to come to your office hours and see how can I improve my essay.
Mm-hmm.
So as I see, all the office hours are in the afternoon, and as you know, in the afternoon I go to work. So if there's anything in the morning.
Just text me, email me, or because if I don't get it in writing, Farouk, I will forget. So can you email me? You can do it right now too, but just suggest a time. Monday and Wednesday morning are okay. It just depends. Are there times? Is there a day and a time that's best for you?
No, for me, as long as it's in the morning, that would be fine. So what about you? So do you have
What
any
what
available
what
time in the morning?
what time in the morning, Farouk?
Anything that starts from 8 to 12.
Okay, between 8 and 12 in the morning.
Any
Yeah.
day, any day, any time.
Yeah, let me think, and I'll look and see when I've got department meetings and all that good stuff. So, okay, between 8 and 12 in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll find a time. And could you see my comments as well, just to make sure you could see
Ah,
my feedback?
yes, I did. Yes, I did. So actually, I
Good.
wanted to. Actually, I wanted to see the peril from two perspectives. One peril as a book, so it's a book, and it's the name
But
of the book.
but
And
the
then
assignment,
and then
but I'm sorry to interrupt you, Farouk, but the assignment I gave you was very specific to analyze the pearl in the book, not general, not big picture. I wanted you to specifically analyze the one symbol of the pearl.
yeah, so that's why I had a problem in this. So I analyze it from two perspectives. One, the pearl as a major as a symbol, and then pearl as the name of or the title of the book.
Yeah, you did
So
kind of a general, you did a sort of thematic analysis, right? Some of your
yes,
paragraphs were just analyzing the different themes in the whole book, which again, we'll get to. But again, for this essay, I asked you guys to just practice the symbolic analysis.
okay.
Hey, Rafi.
Hi.
And yeah, we can, when we meet in person, we can talk about sort of what you need to change or how you can adjust it. Again, you did a lot of things really well. I hope that my comments were clear, right? It was
Yes.
more you know, from college level classes, right? The instructions, you know, like be as specific as possible with the instructions. So,
Okay, sorry.
how are you, Rafi?
I'm good. What about you?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Nice to see you.
You too. We'll see if we get any other students. We've got some Russian and Ukrainian students who are having a really difficult time right now, so they might not be here.
Yeah,
We'll see.
unfortunately, yes.
And like you know, Rafi, so many of our students from different countries know this situation, war and violence and all these horrible things in life. But for me, one thing that makes life a little better is poetry. And that's what I'm going to introduce today. I'm going to grab my phone, make sure anyone texts me. Any students text me, I mean. Between 8 and 12.
And honestly, the topic, I think, as the book, The River Speaks, is this I think it's a book or, yeah, that's a book.
It's a textbook, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was very informative.
Good.
Yeah, I found it very great, very helpful.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
A lot of explanatory things are in there. So you don't know what syntax, it's in there with examples. You don't know what's rhyme, ream, so everything's there.
Good.
Yeah, that's very good.
Excellent. Yeah, it's my favorite book for teaching teaching poetry, both responding to poetry and analyzing poetry, which we'll look at today. And then, yeah, we're gonna, so all of the things, well, not all, but many of the things that you read about, or if you watched my video, some of the elements of poetry, right? Like you were saying, syntax, rhyme, the different sound analysis, all of that stuff. That's what we're going to practice in class for the next couple of days here too.
And also it's easy to read. There are no, difficult words. So no jargon. Yeah. So that's why I found it very helpful.
I'm happy to hear that, Farouk. I'm really happy. I really like that textbook too. If I teach a class that's just a poetry class, I make the students buy the whole book, but because in this class we do some fiction, some poetry, some novels, we do a lot of different stuff. So I don't have students buy the entire book. But yeah, it's a really good sort of introduction to poetry book. Yeah. I'm glad you liked it. And Omid's here. Hi, Omid.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Howdy.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. Yeah, I feel better. No fever. I'm up out of bed, so I'm okay.
Yeah, good to hear.
And like I said to Farouk, no COVID negative, so that was good. That was good news.
I had COVID almost a month ago. But
were you okay?
Of course. Even I had it, I was okay. I didn't notice that I have COVID until I had the test.
Yeah. That was my sister. My sister, when I was okay. And then when I had a fever, she was like, Jeff, you oh my God, you take the test right now. But I'm vaccinated, so I'm not too worried about it,
Did you rapid test or PCR?
Rapid, I think, because my sister works for Google and Google just gives their employees all these free home tests. So it was one of these weird, it was all, I don't know. That's why she's like, I have them, take it right now. Mm-hmm. So that's a rapid test, right? If you do it at home.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yes, that is.
So I don't know. Lots of sleep, lots of water and stuff, and then tea, and then a little bit of soup and stuff. So, but last week was kind of the worst. I felt the worst. By about Saturday, I was starting to feel a little better.
How about today?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm not 100%, but I'm okay. Who is 100% nowadays?
Yeah.
Like I said, and especially for all of our amazing Ukrainian students. Again, I know our students from Afghanistan, you guys know this very, very well, unfortunately, but of course, for our Ukrainian students, I think they're just in shock, It's like a whole different world than their life 2 weeks ago. And now it's just a different reality. So I think a lot of students are really, really challenging, challenging time.
It's a very unfortunate moment,
It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Horrible.
And we are still suffering from that. It is
difficult,
I know. Yeah. The situation in our country is still not good.
I know.
And our families don't have their work opportunities that they had before, no income. So
there's like no economy right now, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And also in Iran too.
Same. It's crazy though, right? How now you're hearing about America, the United States might be sort of less aggressive towards Iran and Venezuela because the US needs more oil. So it's just crazy how it's like watching the whole world change. And I say this with love and respect for, my Afghan students, but it's kind of like the people in Afghanistan have suffered for so long, and kind of like, please know I'm being respectful. Like but it didn't affect other, Europe didn't make big changes or anything with the Afghan war. But it's just crazy how in the last 2 weeks, everything is different, right? Germany is going to spend 3% of GDP on weapons, and the EU and America's going to be nicer to Iran because we might want their oil, and we like Iran better than Saudi Arabia. It's just crazy times right now, it's just crazy.
It's political, I think.
Big time, yeah. Always. Whenever it's about money,
Yeah.
But
I went to visit my family in Iran 1 month ago, and the economy is very, very in bad situation for average people or poor people.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't want to comment on political issues, but the thing that I do want to comment is that I'm just, is the suffering that my people went and are going through in the last 4 or 5 decades. Yeah. And we don't know, especially Afghanistan, my homeland country, when the situation is going to get better. Nobody knows that.
Yeah, and please know, everybody, I wasn't trying to say any opinions, right? So when I talk about no one is making changes to help Afghanistan, I'm just trying to talk about the news, right? I mean, when the US left Afghanistan, it's not like France and Germany was like, okay, now we're going to make these changes. But with the war in Ukraine, right? That's all. I just want to be clear. I want to make sure that everybody knows how much I respect all of you. I'm not trying to have any negative judgments about anybody or anybody's country. But it's just amazing to watch it happen. So Saudi Arabia won't take the president's call. It's like, what is going on in the world right now, you guys? What is going on? Holy mackerel. Yeah. All right. Well, this might be our group for today, which is great. So yeah, today I'm going to introduce poetry. I'll say for Farouk and Omid, I think Farouk already got my feedback and grade for his first draft, but I'll say for you, Omid, and for there's 2 other students. So if you're watching the recording, I've finished grading half of your essays, the first draft for the symbolic analysis. If you don't have your grade yet, by the end of tonight, by midnight tonight, I will finish grading those first drafts, okay? And like Farouk was talking at the beginning of class, you'll see my grade, you'll see my comment, you'll see my suggestion. And when you see that, you can come talk to me or ask me a question about what to do to revise and resubmit for a higher score if you want, okay? So if you don't have your grade yet, you will have it before the end of the day today. And then if you need to talk to me or want to ask me questions about my suggestions, what to do, how to fix it for a higher score, just send me a message, come to office hours, we'll work it out, okay?
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes, please, Rafi.
Could you give me a favor? I came back 2 days ago, and could you give me more time if you may? Oh, okay, thank you.
I know you, Rafi. I think this is my 3rd class with Rafi. And there were some, thank you. Yeah. There were some assignments that I was looking for, and she didn't do them yet. And please, no, I'm not saying that's a problem. I was like, I hope Rafi's okay. I hope everything's okay. But I know what a good student you are, Rafi. So I didn't want to,
thank you.
You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to say, but just know I was thinking of you. I hope everything's okay. It sounds like you were back in Iran, huh?
Yes.
Your internet's a little kind of in and out, Rafi.
Sorry, what did you say?
Your internet, it's like a little in it. So I can hear you. So don't worry about it, Rafi. You can text me right in the chat, but the short answer is yes. Take your time. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. Cool. Farouk or Omid, any questions from you guys about the symbolic analysis or anything before we go into poetry today?
From my end, I didn't receive the comment from your side yet, so.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Cool.
I will go through when I receive the comments and I will get in touch.
Perfect.
And for the rifle, Professor, so I did revise and resubmitted the
I saw
rifle.
I saw that, yeah.
So, and again, I'm waiting for your feedbacks and see.
I'll look at it. I'll look at it. Yeah, I was doing the Pearl one first. So I started last night, but then fell asleep before I finished grading. So yes, I saw that you resubmitted, Farouk. I will look at it again.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So now I am going to share my screen. And let's talk about poetry. Like I said, poetry is my favorite thing to teach in this class. I love poetry in dark times and in scary times in the world. I think poetry, as a language lover, which I am, I think poetry is kind of I think music and poetry are kind of like the greatest things that language can do for human beings, you know. So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's March 9th. It's week 8. I can put that in there. We're halfway through, you guys. We got 2 more months. But it's Wednesday, March 9th. So let's talk about it today. We're going to talk about poetry. We're going to talk about responding to poetry and analyzing poetry, right? And those are 2 different things. If you looked at the River Speaks chapter 1 or chapter 2 or both, you got some idea about how Professor Noor, that's the name of the author of that textbook, how Professor Noor presents responding to poetry, right? And we're going to talk about how we do both of these, right? When we read a poem, we're going to have a sort of emotional response, but then we're also going to talk about this literary analysis, just like we did symbolic analysis of images or metaphors in fiction. We have all these different elements of poetry that we can analyze, right? And like Farouk was saying, that could be syntax, that could be rhyme. And today I'm gonna introduce and we're gonna practice some of those very specific elements of poetry as well, okay? So I'll go through this a little bit quickly. This is in the River Speaks chapter 1 and chapter 2, so that's there for you to do those assignments. But just to make sure I can clarify and explain. So responding to poetry, right? Just like a response that you might have done in 340 or even in 325, when I talk about response, as it says here, there's no right or wrong way to respond to a poem, because ultimately, when you're responding, you're talking about how you felt while you were reading the poem, right? And you can also make connections between the poem and your own personal life, right? So again, response is often about our own personal thoughts, feelings, and opinions. So, you know, I have a new lesson in Canvas where I ask you to respond to a poem. That's where you can just say, I loved it. I hated it. I didn't understand. I was confused, right? That's what I mean when I'm talking about response. And therefore, because we're talking about our personal feelings about it, you can absolutely talk about your own personal experience, or this poem reminds me of my mom, this poem reminds me of a situation, totally appropriate to make connections between the poem and your personal life. Now, where you start to make a little bit more sort of academic style writing is it's important in your response to explain why the poem made you feel that way as much as you can, right? And we'll get practice with this week, next week. But if you say that the poem made you feel happy or inspired, it's a good thing to say, for example, the word, I don't know, the word, what would be a happy or inspiring word? I don't know. The word hope in the poem gave me this feeling, right? Or this image that the author used in the poem. It's that sound, that image, that word that really gave me that feeling, right? So even in the response, you're starting to make some kind of connection between your own feelings and what specifically in the poem gave you that feeling, right? And to do this type of response, you don't really need a lot of information about the poem or the poet. Like we talked about for understanding the Pearl, it's good to have background information about John Steinbeck. When was the book written? Context about the location, right? all of that background information that's helpful in literary analysis. Well, in a poetic sort of response, you don't necessarily need a lot of information about the poem or the poet, because this isn't really about the author's intention, right? Just like Professor Noor says in the book, if you started with chapter 1, you know, a lot of people get nervous about poetry because they think, I'm not sure, like, what was I supposed to understand, right? What did the author want me to understand? And that's not as important when we're responding to a poem, because it's not about the author's intention. We can save that for analysis. Responding is really just about our own personal response to the poem, how we felt, what it did to us, and as much as we can, why it did that to us, okay? Does this make sense? And I've got another slide here to show you about analysis here, but does the sort of basic elements of responding to poetry, does this make sense?
Professor, sorry.
Yes.
So do you mean by response our reaction? So response our understanding from the poem, and then our reactions and feelings?
Yeah, basically, exactly. So if the word reaction makes more sense for you, Farouk, that's totally fine. I was going to say, again, all of this, let me bring this back over here. And I'm going to go to student view in our Canvas page. But yes, Farouk, basically, response, I mean, how did the poem make you feel? What did it make you think about? And as much as we can, why did it do that, right? So here's the River Speaks chapter 1. I saw a thumbs up from Omid, so that's great. And this is sort of in these first few pages of chapter 1, right? Farouk, I know he said that he got to read it, but if you haven't read it yet, or if you're watching the recording and you haven't read it yet, this first chapter is really kind of a sort of, Professor Noor offers students a way to think about poetry instead of just, wait a minute, what was I supposed to understand, right? What's the one way that I should read this poem? I'm not sure what the author wants me to understand. Well, you know, the way that he's proposing, what he's suggesting to us is that that's not really the most important thing to do, right? Like he talks about, let me see here. I can't search the document, but he talks about responding to poetry in these first, 5 or 10 pages here in the first chapter. So absolutely, Farouk, when I say responding, I sort of mean reaction. How did you react, right? And that's about your personal thoughts and feelings. Okay, this is different than an analysis of poetry, right? And this semester we'll do both. We only spend about 3 or 4 weeks with poetry before we get to the novel at the end of the class. But in those few weeks, we will absolutely do both, right? You will get to practice responding to poetry and you'll get to practice poetic analysis. And so how do we analyze? Well, when we're analyzing poems, there are right and wrong answers, right? And when we're analyzing poetry, there are right and wrong answers because it's our job in an analysis to explain the specific choices that the poet made in the structure, I'll go ahead and highlight this word for us, of the poem, right? So in order to write an analysis, you have to be able to understand some of the poetic structure that the poet used in the poem. And as it says here, you need to demonstrate an understanding of things like poetic rhythm, rhyme scheme, sounds. That includes alliteration, consonants, assonance, metaphor, simile, and symbolism. Symbolism will be very familiar for us all after going through the Pearl, and it will help you when we're doing poetic analysis because poems, good poems, are rich with symbols, rich with symbolism. And to do a real, effective poetic analysis, it's very useful to learn about the historical context of the poem and the poet, because then you can start to make connections between the single poem that you're analyzing and maybe other poems that the poet wrote or other information that you know about the poet's life. Now, I'll say this one more time. It's not your job to tell me or anybody else, well, this is what the poet meant. right? That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about analysis. But if you want to suggest that a poem, has a deeper connection to the history or the time period or the poet's life, you can do that, right? And that's why it's helpful to have some background information, historical information about the poem, the poet, and all that good stuff, right? So response is your personal reaction. How did it make you feel? Why did it make you feel that way? Analysis is having an understanding of some of the structural elements of poetry and then applying that analysis to the specific poem. And again, that's what we're going to practice today. But before we do that, I just want to make sure this difference here, this distinction is clear so that when I say responding and when I say analyzing, the difference between those two is clear. We good? Rafi's nodding, yes. Farouk, that makes sense?
Yes, yes, Professor.
Rafi says, oh, okay, yeah. It'll, if it's a little bit clear, we'll be better, by the end of class. So for example, we're going to practice responding to a poem right now, okay? I'm going to read this poem for us. And remember, responding just means I liked it, I didn't like it, it made me feel this, it made me feel that. And then as much as we can, saying it made me feel that because on this line, this word, this whatever, okay? So that's what we're going to practice right now. So I'll read the poem and then I'm going to ask if you can, since we only have 3, each of us can sort of share our response, okay? So this poem is called The Dream of Now. This is by an American poet named William Stafford. The Dream of Now. When you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream, you carry day out of the dark like a flame. When spring comes north and flowers unfold from earth and its even sleep, you lift summer on with your breath, lest it be lost ever so deep. Your life you live by the light you find and follow it on as well as you can, carrying through darkness wherever you go, your one little fire that will start again.
Oh.
Take a moment, let it sit. I'll read it one more time. This poem doesn't have a lot of rhymes. We're going to get to rhyme next week. Sometimes it's much more difficult to actually analyze rhyming poems because that means we have to understand syllable and structure and rhythm. But we start this first week with sort of personal feeling and symbol because so many people can connect to that, okay? So I'll read it one more time. And again, just notice your response. Notice your reaction, Farouk's word. So the dream of now. When you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream, you carry day out of the dark like a flame. When spring comes north and flowers unfold from earth and its even sleep, you lift summer on with your breath, lest it be lost ever so deep. Your life you live by the light you find and follow it on as well as you can, carrying through darkness wherever you go, your one little fire that will start again. All right. So no wrong answers here. We're just responding to poetry. What'd you think? And more importantly, what we're practicing here is why'd you think it, right? What in the poem made you think or feel that way? Who would like to go first?
First, I think the name of the poem is The Dream. So
yes.
So it talks about, I think, life in viewpoint of me. It talks the hardships, the challenges, maybe. As it says, for example, when spring comes north and flowers unfold from earth and it's even sleep. So this explains that anytime we are in a hardships, but we should be mindful that there are times that we will pass through all these hardships and then we will have so it's somehow it's sort of, for example, it relates springs to the summer, So in summer, all the plants, the flowers, everything, I think revives.
Reborn, rebirth,
yeah,
revive.
reborn.
Yeah,
like
absolutely. This. Yeah. I love it. Farouk actually even went to where we're going to go later in the class, which is Farouk went right to some of the words that I would say these symbols, right? These images that give him some of this feeling. So I heard Farouk say the title of the poem includes the word dream. So I like that. Farouk's thinking about the title. And then we got sort of his interpretation, right? That I think it talks about the challenges in life. And then Farouk said the lines about the flowers unfolding from earth and its even sleep make him think about the hardships. And then there are these images of spring and summer, and I'll say rebirth, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Great. Great first sort of general response. Yeah. How about Omid or Rafi? Any kind of just first reaction to the poem?
Can I say?
Please.
I think maybe it's a combination of two opposite things. Okay. About, for example, about flower as a symbol of hope in life or something beautiful in life, and also about darkness and maybe he wants to explain nation mix of together hope and darkness. My response is I like the third paragraph more. I like this one more. That's it.
Okay.
Maybe it's not enough.
No, we're just learning. We're just practicing, right? We're just practicing. Yeah, really nice. Rafi says, I see a combination of opposites. For example, flowers as a hopeful symbol in life. However, there is also darkness. I think the poet is showing a combination of these two things. I really like the third paragraph the most. Yeah, I will say we're going to talk a lot about rhythm and syllables in poetry. But I think that third stanza is really special. I'll talk about stanza. Stanza is the poetry word for paragraph, right? But this first line in the last paragraph here, your life you live by the light you find. This is really classic American English poetic rhythm. And we have all these one syllable words, right? So your life you live by the light you find. And it's no mistake that he puts these syllables, these one syllable words in this order, because the poem really finds that rhythm that's very natural to English poetry. And so you're right, Rafi, we do I always feel like I kind of fall into the poem in the third stanza with that line that gives your life you live by the light you find. This is called iambic pentameter. This is just an unstressed, stressed syllable taking turns. Boom, 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 boom. And this is, again, very classic American poetic rhythm and poetic structure. So I think you're absolutely correct, Rafi, that this is a big change. When we get one of those very natural rhythmic lines, there is some feeling that happens, right? And then we get the sort of culmination of the image that we get at the beginning of the poem. We sort of have, I would say, some resolution, right? We have some feeling about, the author gives us some conclusion to some of the different images in the poem. Yeah. How about you, Omid? What'd you think? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What'd you like? What stands out? What'd you think?
Regarding the poem, I have to say that it is all about, as it's as Farouk also mentioned, about the title of the title of the poem. It is like more about the life challenges that we may face through our life, and the hardship that we may face is
Sorry to interrupt, Professor. I have one more opinion or notions because I must leave so I can go to work. So can I also connect the last 4 lines to the parallel that we studied? So I see some similarities. For example, in the parallel, it says that humans are never satisfied. You give them one thing, they want something more. I mean, if I explain this, so this would mean that the last 4 lines that human dreams are never ending. So, so for example, it's also true. You give them one thing, so they want another thing. You gave them that thing, so they dream another thing. Until one day, before they reach to their old dreams, they die. So
yeah. I like that. I like that connection you're making, Farouk. I think the only difference might be asking, this is where, you'll see when you watch the recording, Farouk, even though this is a short poem, right? This is a short poem, but that first sentence, your life you live by the light you find and follow it, here it, the pronoun is referring back to the light, right? So, and follow the light as well as you can, carrying through darkness wherever you go, you're one little fire. So you're right that there is this, the fire will start again, right? The light will start again. But what is that light? I think that's the big question in this poem. I think in the Pearl, it's a little bit more obvious that there's this feeling of, well, it's mankind's like more, borderline greed. So I think there is a similar feeling, Farouk, but I don't know if in this poem, the symbol of the light represents greed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Maybe over here, the light would represent a goal, an objective.
Now we're talking. Now, Farouk is getting us a perfect transition as he gets ready to leave. Well, when we start to make an argument about what the symbol in the poem means, now we're getting into analysis, right? Now we're getting into poetic analysis. But that type of thinking that you're already doing, Farouk, that's exactly what we're going to do, right? That's exactly what we do in poetic analysis is we sort of keep track of the image in the poem and see, okay, I'm going to argue that in this poem, the light represents a goal. The light represents a dream. The light represents something, right? Something. And that's closer to analysis. Does that make more sense, Farouk?
Yes. Thank you, Professor.
Yeah. Cool. And good. Omi, did we get everything? I think the title of the poem is important. Yeah. I think that it is about life and the challenges we face. Anything we want to add to this, Omid, your response before we look at analysis for the rest of class?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, perfect, good, great. Okay, so now, like we said, response. How I thought, what I felt, I like this, I didn't like that. I think it's about this. I feel like it's about that, right? Now, when it comes to analyzing poems and doing real poetic analysis, now we have to talk, we need some vocab words, right, to talk about this. So here's some basic words that we will use for the next 3 weeks to talk about poetry at any time. And this is all about the organization and the structure of poems. All poems in English you can analyze for these 4 things, okay? So first we've got lines. A line of poetry is simply that, a single line. Poets may choose to break lines in different ways in order to create a specific feeling, meaning, or sound in the poem. So this is just when you wake to the dream of now, that's a line, right? From night and its other dream, that's another line. And a line and sentence are not the same thing, right? It just means where there's a line on the page, okay? Excuse me, I'm getting too excited. And then lines go together to create stanzas. A stanza is a group of lines separated by blank space from other lines and stanzas. Now, like lines, poets may choose to break stanzas in order to create a specific feeling, meaning, or sound in a poem. Now, Rafi already did this very naturally, right? She said, I like the third stanza, right? And this is no mistake. William Stafford is a good poet. So each stanza has its own kind of feeling, right? It's not by accident that he chooses to have 3 stanzas in this poem. And again, usually a good poet will sort of make specific choices about what kind of images, what kind of words, what kind of sounds that they want to include in each specific stanza, right? So a stanza is not the same thing as a paragraph. A stanza might just be one sentence, right? It might just only be one full sentence, but it's a group of lines that usually the author is going to put together because they have some feeling, some meaning, something that the author wants to show that these lines go together, okay? So individual lines come together to create stanzas. Stanzas come together to create poems. That's simple, okay? Then the last 2 things that are really important to understand when you start to analyze lines and stanzas are the 2 ways that we know when to stop and take a pause when we're reading the poem. So there are these 2 things called caesura. You could say the S in the middle here 2 different ways. Caesura. This is a natural pause in a poem. And the poet can create a caesura through the organization of stressed, unstressed syllables, or simply through punctuation, right? Most of the time, I'm just checking the chat. Of course, Farouk, we'll see you later and enjoy the recording when you get to watch it. Thank you for everything you contributed already, Farouk. Have a good day at work.
You too. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So a caesura is a natural pause in a poem. The best way for us to think about it as we're just sort of learning about American poetry, English poetry, is a caesura is punctuation, basically, right? So in a poem, even like this, we see a comma at the end of line 2. We see a period at the end of line 4. We see a comma even in the middle kind of line 5, right? We see commas and punctuation in the poem. When you see a comma or a period here, you might see a question mark. You might see a dash, a hyphen. Any kind of punctuation is a caesura. That's a very strong, right, like sign telling you, okay, stop, pause, right, stop here. Now, this is a little bit different than something called enjambment. And enjambment is when a poet chooses to end a line or a stanza mid-sentence. That means the poet has the logical meaning of the sentence continue into the next line or stanza without a caesura. And again, we see this in this very short poem here, right? The first line, when you wake to the dream of now, and notice the line ends, but no comma, no period, no caesura. We just jump down to the next line, right? From night and its other dream. Okay, well, now we do have a comma. We do have a caesura at the end of line 2. So this here in line 1, when you wake to the dream of now, new line, this is an example of enjambment, right? Enjambment means the line ends in the middle of the sentence with no punctuation, no caesura. Right? So lines come together to create stanzas. Stanzas come together to create poems. And at the end of a line, you might have a caesura, punctuation, or you might have an enjambment. No punctuation, no stop. The line just jumps down and the meaning continues on to the next line. We're going to do a very quick analysis using these terms, but does this basically make sense, you guys? My tiny 2, Omid and Rafi. Okay. So let's look at this. Question? Of course.
In my language, we have two kind of poem. The first one, maybe in the past, poet put some words that they have similar sounds.
Yes.
End of the line.
Yeah.
But now is the same in English? There are the same situation.
We're going to see both, Rafi.
Okay.
You know, in 2022, it's very common now to not have rhymes at the end of the line, right? Now, you will, so how can I answer this in a short way? Got it. Omid is saying they're remodeling.
It's not about the punctuation. It is the
sound.
Yeah.
Right? So let's look at this. We'll practice, but just so you know, the answer is that there's both. It sounds like just like in Persian, okay. Right? There's both. But here's a classic American poem. This is like what we think of, right? Who has seen the wind? Neither I nor you. But when the leaves hang trembling, the wind is passing through. Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is passing by, right? We have lots of examples where we get these true rhymes, you, through,
I,
absolutely. Now, we're going to look at both, but you're right, Rafi, it's much more trendy in 2022 to have a poem where the rhymes are not so obvious, right? There's some interesting rhymes in this poem, but it's, you know, if we just look at the end of the line, right? Now dream dark flame, no. Flowers sleep, breath deep. Okay, actually sleep and deep is in there, right? Sleep and deep is a true rhyme. But this is why enjambment and caesura is important, Rafi, because the way that he breaks the line up, the poem here, it's not like screaming at you that these sleep and deep rhyme, right? It's not as clear as I and by because of the way that the poet uses enjambment, right? But there are some rhymes, right? And find, can, go, again. Okay, not really. But we do have two lines that do end with a true rhyme. Sleep and deep, that's true rhyme, right? That's a true rhyme. But it's not as sort of, like I would say, classic or obvious as you, through, I, by, you know?
Yeah.
And we'll see both. Like I said, I start with this kind of poetry because students love, humans love rhyme. Rhyme is so important for I think, honestly, the human heart and mind. That's why we love music and that's why we love poetry. But for ESL students, for multilingual students like you guys, sometimes it's really hard to understand rhythm and rhyme in poetry, in English poetry, because so much of it is about syllables and stress. And sometimes just because of pronunciation, we're not sure about stress and rhythm and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But we'll see examples. We'll see examples.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. So Omid, I know you can't talk, but if you can type in the chat, or just Rafi and I can talk. So if we think about stanzas and lines, Rafi, if we practice really basic poetic analysis, right? How many stanzas are in this poem, The Dream of Now?
3.
Yep. Good. And how many lines?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12.
You got it. So we could say something like, this poem has 3 stanzas of 4 lines each. There are a total of 12 lines in the poem, right? And this is about, you know, again, this is pretty simple, but this is an example of poetic analysis, right? Because here, we're not talking about my thoughts or feelings about the poem. This is analyzing the structure of the poem, right? It's becoming aware of the structure that the poet chose to use, right? Now, how about enjambment? Remember, enjambment means no comma, no period, no punctuation. Where do we have examples of enjambment? I already said line 1. There's enjambment in line 1. Let me zoom in for you, Rafi. There's enjambment in line 1. Where else?
You live summer on with your breast.
Yep. That's line. Can you count for me? I'll make you practice.
1,
That
2,
what
3,
line
4,
number is
5,
that?
6, 7.
You got it. Any other enjambment?
9.
Line.
Yep. Line 9.
And 11, 2.
Yep. And we're missing 1 back in the first stanza. So it's line 1.
Mm-hmm.
Line 3. Line 5. And notice when we start to do this analysis, even though this poem does not rhyme, notice it's only the odd lines that end with enjambment, right? So again, these are these are choices that the poet is making to control the feeling that we get when we read the poem. Now we get caesura, as you would imagine, on the others, right? On the evens. Line 2, we have a comma, right? Line 4, we have a period. Line 6, we have a comma. Line 8, we have a period. Line 10, comma. Again, notice patterns, right? Even when we don't have true perfect rhymes, good poets are making choices about how you read the poem, right?
It's not accidentally.
It is not accidentally. In a good poem, it's not an accident. Right? Yeah, it's not an accident. Yeah. Now we can say we have one other example of a caesura, again on line 5, when spring comes north, comma, and flowers unfold. So we do have another example of caesura that takes place in the poem, in line 5, but it's not at the end of the line, right? And if you're doing analysis of the rhythm or the structure, maybe that's interesting and important to talk about. Maybe it's not. I just want to make sure that we understand, right? Caesura includes any punctuation, not only punctuation at the end of the line, but for this class, we're really going to focus on the end of the lines, right? Because like I was saying to Rafi, when we start to look at rhyme, then we want to think about the end of the line a lot, right? That's when we really want to think about the end of the line. So you guys just did your first successful, poetic structural analysis, right? This is this poem has 3 stanzas of 4 lines each. There are a total of 12 lines in the poem. We could also say something like each of the even lines ends in caesura. While all of the odd lines end in enjambment. Right? Again, basic analysis, but this is true. This is all part of the structural sort of structure of the poem, right? Okay, so next I'm gonna change from structure to talk about sounds to get you ready for rhyming next week. But any questions about, again, these 4 key words, because we're gonna use them all the time when we talk here. Line, stanza, caesura, enjambment. Any questions? Rafi, you good?
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no question.
It was interesting.
And the enjambment is only about the commas, right?
The opposite. Enjambment is when the line ends with no comma, no period, no punctuation, nothing. Enjambment
with no comma,
exactly.
No,
Enjambment is the line ends, but no punctuation, and the meaning of the sentence continues, right? Because this first stanza is really just one sentence, right? When you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream, comma, you carry day out of the dark like a flame, period. So stanza 1, 4 lines, 1 sentence, right? But we have a caesura at the end of line 2 and line 4, and enjambment with no punctuation at the end of line 1 and 3. Cool?
Yeah, got it.
Yes, please, Rafi.
And for a line, it doesn't necessary that to have a verb in each line.
No.
No.
Yeah. Throw grammar in the garbage for poetry, Rafi.
Yeah. No.
It's all about sound and symbol in poetry, really. Yeah, I think. So speaking of sound, I'm not going to ask you to sort of do a full, memorize every, we could analyze sounds and poems in all languages in lots of different ways. So I'm only going to focus on a few specific aspects of sound that I want you to be aware of, okay? And that is specifically alliteration, consonants, and assonance. And here's what that is. Alliteration, as it says here, is repetition of consonant sounds, usually at the very beginning of the word. So this means first letter. And here's some examples. A fierce friend is a friend for life. Now notice it's F at the beginning, F, 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 and then another example of an F in the middle. Okay, but this is still going to be alliteration. We've still got all these sounds at the beginning of the word, and then we have that sound again, right? Or the same thing here with M. Many majestic mysteries may move us. And this we could talk about in any language. This line is in Spanish, but here's alliteration with S, one of my favorite lines from Neruda, y sino sombra, sino sangre, right? So all of these three examples are alliteration. First, the first sound, the first consonant sound of the word, we sort of see over and over again in the same line, right? Alliteration, alliteration. Fierce friend, friend for life. Many majestic mysteries may move. Sino sombra, sino sangre. This is neither shadow nor blood. Oh, it's so good. Okay. Alliteration. Makes sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Excellent. Consonants now is still going to be focusing on consonant sounds, right? So not vowels. But now we can talk about the repetition of consonant sounds in closely placed words anywhere in the word, right? Not just at the beginning of the word. So in this first sentence, I've got the N here for soon the wound was unwound and high noon was drawn in, right? Lots of N's, even though it's not the or here we have L examples. She'll wrap the hill in fallen silk until the last leaf falls. Now, again, we can go back and forth, right? Here's last leaf, alliteration. But in the context of the line, we see it's not just last leaf, right? There's lots of other L's, L sounds, lots of more consonants in that line. And here's some P sounds with flip and topple and ripple and wobble. The top flopped down, then up. And this sounds more like maybe like a children's nursery rhyme or like a children's story, right? But still, flip, topple, ripple, top, flop, up. That P sound. Consonants. So alliteration, same consonant sound at the beginning of the word. Consonants, same consonant sound in the middle, in the beginning, and the end. But if we're looking at a line or two, we hear a same repeated consonant sound. And finally, we have assonance. And assonance refers to repetition of vowel sounds in the words. And this is where we can start to get into rhymes, right? Because vowels are so powerful in the English language. So this is something like the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plains, or we light a fire on the mountain and lie still under cold sky. Lie, fi, lie, sky. And remember, unlike consonants, you can't always trust spelling for assonance, right? English vowel sounds, you don't need the spelling, right? This is where, again, the punctuation, the rhyming can get difficult. But even though it looks different in all these words, I've got lie, fi, lie, sky. That would be assonance, same vowel sound, right? And same thing here, fleet, feet, sweep by sleeping streets. Flee, fee, swe, slee, stree. Right? Same vowel sounds, same vowel sounds. So that's what assonance is. And really, again, when I ask you to analyze the sounds of a poem, this is what I mean in this class, right? Again, we could do more, we could do lots more, but alliteration, consonants, and assonance, it's all I want you to be aware of when we analyze sounds in this class together, okay? Questions?
The sounds includes all these three?
Yes. So now, yes, when I say sound analysis or analyze the sounds in a line, that I'm only in this class, I'm only talking about alliteration, consonants, and assonants. We'll talk next week a little bit about rhythm and rhyme, but here when I say sound, I mean the sound of individual letters and consonants and how they come together in the poem. Yeah. Let me get the next slide ready because we'll practice. Now we get to practice, right? Okay. So let's look at our poem again. Let's look at William Stafford again. Because we do have some, I think, some really cool, fun, interesting sound stuff in this poem. So remember, alliteration, same sound at the beginning of the word, same consonant sound at the beginning of the words. Consonants, same consonant sound anywhere in the word, and assonants, same vowel sound. So I'll read the poem again. Just listen for sounds, you guys, okay? Just listen for sounds. So the dream of now, and I'll go really slow here, you know. When you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream, you carry day out of the dark like a flame. When spring comes north and flowers unfold from earth and its even sleep, you lift summer on with your breath, lest it be lost ever so deep. Your life you live by the light you find and follow it on as well as you can, carrying through darkness wherever you go your one little fire that will start again. I'll do it again. Lots of sounds. Hopefully you're noticing sounds. Did you start to notice any of these, Rafi? I'll do it again. Alliteration, first letter with the same sound. Consonants, same consonant sound anywhere in the word. And assonants, same vowel sound. I'll go even extra slow this time. The dream of now. When you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream, you carry day out of the dark like a flame. When spring comes north and flowers unfold from earth and its even sleep, you lift summer on with your breath, lest it be lost ever so deep. Your life you live by the light you find and follow it on as well as you can, carrying through darkness wherever you go, your one little fire that will start again. What did we hear? What sounds did we hear? For example, if you're thinking, there is definitely alliteration in the first stanza. Alliteration, same sound at the beginning of the word.
Is there any connection between dream and like a flame or not?
A sound?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I'd say dream, flame. This is consonants, right? That's the same sound at the end of the word. Yeah, I think so.
So what else? Could you say again a definition of alliteration?
Alliteration. First sound. This means same consonant sound, but at the beginning of the word. So for example, I'll just put, just to help you guys.
When wake.
Hey, you got it. There it is, right? When wake, same W sound. When wake, yeah, yeah. There's one other example of alliteration in the first stanza. It's in line 3.
Day dark.
You got it. You got it. Good. And Rafi gave us dream, flame. And even we could say, when you wake to the dream of now, from, even the M at from, night and its other dream. Oh, my mistake. I'm sorry about that, you guys. What is it? In the first stanza alone, we get, ay, 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 ay. I know what I'm doing, you guys. I'm a professional. There we go. Dream from, when you wake to the dream of now, from night, dream, flame. Absolutely. We get this M, consonants with that letter M in stanza 1. Let me make this bigger. There we go. How about vowel sounds? And of course, this is always more difficult for, vowels are always more difficult for multilingual people, my friends. So don't feel bad. But let me see if I can help you with this. I'm being a perfectionist now, forgive me. Okay, so we have stanza 1 alliteration, when wake, day dark. We have consonants with that M sound, dream, from, dream, flame. And let's see if we can hear any vowel sounds. So, we, u, a, u, e, I can't, it sounds too crazy. Okay, I'll do the, I won't just do the vowels, I'll say the words. When you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream, you carry day out of the dark like a flame. There's not very much. There's one that really stands out to me. It's in line 3 and line 4. And actually, we have the same vowel sound in line 1 too. When you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream, you carry day out of the dark like a flame. I think that's our only real assonance, our only real vowel sound. So that's wake, day, flay, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's our only real kind of repeated vowel sound in the first stanza. Does that make sense, you guys? Stop me if it doesn't.
Yes.
Okay. How about stanza 2? Do we have any alliteration? Usually students like alliteration. We can see that one pretty quickly. Do we have alliteration in the second stanza? Definitely in line 8.
When and with.
When and which one?
When, and no. I said.
Which one, Rafi?
When, with.
Yep.
No.
When and with.
With.
Good. Okay. Yeah, we do. They're separated by a couple lines, but that's fine. Definitely begin with the same W sound. Do we have any? I don't think we have any other W sound in this stanza. There's another one I'm thinking of even closer together in line 8.
Lost.
You got it. Lest it be lost, right? Just putting those sounds next to each other gives, I mean, for me at least, when I read it, a strong feeling, right? Strong feeling. Yeah, not too much alliteration here. How about any other consonants, other sounds that don't happen at the beginning, stanza 2? I think in line 5 and 6, we get a little one. Oh, we have, I think this one counts for sure. I'll read just those two. When spring comes north and flowers unfold from earth.
Flowers.
Flowers unfold from earth, right? Now, if you wanted to say, oh, that's 2 F's at the beginning, this is alliteration, not consonants, okay, whatever. But we definitely get we get 3 F sounds pretty close together here, right? When spring comes north and flowers unfold from earth and it's even sleep, you lift, and then we even get it further down in lift, right? Summer on with your breath, lest it be lost ever so deep. We could say the same thing about with breath. With breath, with your breath, with your breath. Yeah. Yeah.
How about sleep and deep?
Now you got it. Now we're going to assonance. That's where I wanted to go, Rafi. Absolutely. Yeah. Now when we talk about vowel sounds, we have a true rhyme, right? We have sleep and deep. That's a true rhyme. Absolutely. Sleep and deep. No, for sure. That same E sound, right? Any other vowel sound? When spring comes north and flowers unfold from earth and it's even sleep, you lit. It's and lift kind of rhyme. Lift, right?
Can we do like the earth and breathe?
Earth and breathe. Ooh, that's a good one. Earth and breathe. Earth and breath. Yeah. From earth and breath. We can't do it for vowels, but we could definitely do it for consonants. I mean, earth, breath. Those are different vowel sounds. But the TH at the end definitely does go together. Yeah, different vowel sound. I think you're right, Rafi. The biggest vowel sound in this second stanza is the true rhyme, is sleep and deep, right? You kind of get it's, lift, it. So, and it's even sleep, you lift summer on with your breath, lest it. But I don't think it's that important, but they are the same vowel sound, right? I, li, I. That's that I, right? One of the vowel sounds that I can make in English. Yeah. How about stanza 3, alliteration? We got a lot here. It's another reason, Rafi, I think you said, I like stanza 3, because now he gives us some of the things we really like in poetry, right? How about that first line? What do we get?
Life, light.
You got it. And I mean, I love, yes, yeah, life, live, light. And even just those 3 words, right? They're beautiful. Those 3 words next to each other give us some feeling, right? Just putting them next to each other. And then the sound especially is one of those reasons, right? Life, live, light. Good. What else? And we could even maybe say, well, maybe well and will go together here too, right? Maybe this is alliteration and consonants together. Or maybe, because here we have L at the end, okay. Or maybe all of these words then, we could say, well, all these L sounds go together in the third stanza, right? Life, live, light, well.
Can we do the little as well? I think.
1 second, you guys.
Or the third stanza on the alteration.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, like the life, life, light, and little.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Life, live, light, follow it on as well as you can, carrying through darkness wherever you go. You're one little. Well, little will. Exactly. Thank you. Two L sounds. Yes, of course.
Why we can consider these two, I mean, how can I consider alliteration like consonants? Could you explain? Because did you change it?
Yeah, well, this is what I was saying. I think, of course, you're all excellent students. So students love to go, Jeff, is this alliteration or is it consonants? It can only be one. But even more important than that, Rafi, is sort of understanding, well, this L sound, sometimes there's examples of alliteration, life, live, light. And then we also have additional consonants where we have L in well, little, will. And the combination of those two, of the alliteration and the consonants, really just goes to give us to say, okay, well, regardless of whether we want to say the third stanza features a lot of consonants, the third stanza features a lot of alliteration, whatever you call it, it's not that important because, you know, this is, you're not doing a literature major. But I do hope you understand and you can see, oh, that L consonant is very powerful in this third stanza. We have it at the beginning of words, in the middle of words, at the end of words, right? Absolutely. And actually, so in that case, if we do want to separate it though, of course, I know we're excellent students in this class, then you could say, well, little in that case, maybe we could say it's both alliteration and consonants, right? There's an L at the beginning and an L in the middle here, right? Yeah, really nice. Are there other alliteration, or I think that's it? Your life you live by the light you find and follow. Oh, we get another find and follow. That's true alliteration, right? Carrying through darkness wherever you go, you're one little fire that will start again. Yeah. How about vowel sounds? Any rhymes? Anything that sounds kind of like a rhyme?
The same has alliteration. Life, yes. Live, light.
You got it. Lie, li, life, yeah. Lie, li, lie. I think life and light are true rhymes, right?
Yeah.
And find, light, life, light, find. Different consonant, of course, but same vowel sound there, right? And follow it on as well as you can, carrying through darkness wherever you go. You're one little fire, one it lit, fi will, lit, will. We get little and will.
Yeah,
tell me.
Can we include the carrying as well?
What is it? What's the vowel sound?
The I or Y?
Carry. I don't think it's the same vowel sound because this is lie, life, light, find, carry, e. That's the difference between I and E.
Yeah.
But again, you start to see how, of course, consonants, alliteration, consonants, and assonants go together, right? Because here we put all the L's together, but we actually see that two of our L words even share a similar vowel sound with a word that starts with a different consonant, right? And again, I think I keep thinking of Rafi saying she likes the third stanza because that's when we get much more of this traditional, it's almost rhymes, right? It almost feels like more of a rhyming poem in the third stanza. We get this combination of sounds and stress that is really pleasing. It's just really, really pleasing when we hear it, right? So your life you live by the light you find and follow it on as well as you can, carrying through darkness wherever you go, you're one little fire that will start again. Life, light, find, fire, fire too, in the last line, right? Line 12. That's the same vowel sound as well. Life, light, find, fire. Gosh, it's so beautiful. Even again, just those 4 words next to each other, right? Life, light, find, fire. It gives me a feeling. It gives me a feeling just when I think about the symbol and the sound together. It's like, ooh, okay, that's exciting. That's interesting. You know.
Does it matter when you read press which on which letter? Does it matter?
What do you mean? You mean press like emphasize?
Yeah.
And okay, do you mean when you're writing a poem or when you're reading a poem out loud?
When you read.
If it's a good poem, it should guide you about how to speak it out loud, right? Because that's the magic, I think now, that's the magic of poetry. When the poet makes very clear decisions about sound and structure, right? Like we talked about lines, stanzas, caesuras, and enjambment. When there's clear choices with structure and sound, that is like the map that guides the speaker when they pronounce the poem, right? Yeah. So, and then the flip side of that coin, Rafi, is when you're writing a poem, hopefully you're thinking about how you want it to sound. And those are the choices you're making when you write the poem, right? Because you can almost hear the sound of the poem you want in your mind. And the way you write it, the way you make your line breaks, the sounds you put next to each other, that is the guide, right? That's the map that you give. And again, that's why I love talking about poetry, but I'll just keep saying, of course it's more challenging in our second, third, or fourth language, right? Because we don't have as much of that just history and experience hearing the sounds of the language over and over again. You know, that's why it's a big challenge. I still think it's worth it. I still think it's beautiful and important to hear language in new and different ways. But it definitely makes poetic analysis in your second, third, or fourth language more difficult, right? Because I can't even imagine, right? Like I can kind of fake some French, but my French poetry would be impossible. I mean, like I'm good in Spanish, and even sometimes Spanish poetry is just very difficult, right? Because again, different languages will have different structures too. I'll be clear for you, Rafi and Omid, and for anyone watching the recording, everything I'm saying is very much about English poetry, okay? Now, the sounds though, Rafi, like you were saying, rhyme sounds almost always have to do with vowels. It doesn't matter what language. It could be Persian, it could be Arabic, it could be Spanish, it doesn't matter, right? Our sense of true rhyme comes from things like lie, life, and light, right? Or what are two Persian words that rhyme, Rafi?
Persian word for what?
Any 2 Persian words that rhyme. What are 2 words that rhyme in Persian?
You mean similar together?
Yeah, and it's that have the same sound.
2 words. Honestly, I didn't understand your question.
Oh, a rhyme is like we were saying, a rhyme is like you and two, right? Or me and see, or blue and new. And so I was just asking an example of any 2 Persian words that rhyme that same way.
For example, u, it is a
sorry for interrupting, Rafi. I think we have a common in Dari Persian, which is like Khordan Nushidan.
Khordan Ushidan.
Khordan Nushidan.
Well, I don't know about the beginning, but
it is like eating and drinking.
I don't think so.
The dan at the end, I'm asking because usually rhyme is it's all about vowel sounds. That's what I'm trying to make sure is clear. So, but that's when you say udan, hushidan. Okay, forgive my pronunciation, right? But the beginning of those words don't rhyme. But dan and dan, same, right? Same sound, same word, same suffix, it sounds like. How about you have an example, Rafi? I can Google it too.
Maybe u, su.
There we go. U and su.
Yeah.
And definitely vowel sounds. The word u, what's the word u?
U means, okay. One moment, please.
Yeah.
Like him or them?
Yeah, yeah. چی میگم به انگلیسی ضمیر رو؟
Pronoun?
Yeah. What?
ضمیر.
Sorry.
I found some information here. The Rubaiyat, I've read that in English. Oh, let's see, overlong syllables. Okay, here's internal rhyme in Persian. Again, this is Wikipedia, so maybe it's terrible, but. How about this? Can someone help me with this? Oops, let me make it bigger for people to see. What's this one, you guys?
Zamane bahane.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now
or
that's
sheer seer.
Sheer seer, totally,
yeah.
Right? And what's this one?
Saqi baqi.
Exactly, right? Now I'm showing, and this, and why does it rhyme? It's the vowels, right? It's a-e, a-e, a-e. Is this a-e, zamane? What was this one?
Yeah.
Zamane.
Bahane.
A-e, 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 a-e. This is true in almost any language, that the vowel sounds, whether, and remember, not letters, forget about spelling. I just mean a, u, e, a, whatever. Those vowel sounds are the things that give us true rhyme. That's what really helps rhyme kick in for feeling, right? And it's the same in English. It's the same in English. It's the same in English. That was what I was trying to make clear there.
Thank you.
Yeah. What was your example rhyme, Rafi? That you came up with?
Sheer seer.
Sheer seer. What are what are those two words? What's the translation of those two words?
Sheer means leon.
Yep. Lion.
And lion. Yeah. And seer means
garlic.
Garlic. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. Right? Absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah. And that's those vowel sounds. Good. Okay, so I know that this is a lot of information to just practice at once, but you guys did this really, really well, and you'll get more practice with sounds. But I want to show you just one more thing before we finish class. But before we do that, any questions about these alliteration, consonants, and assonants, right? Even we know we need more practice, but basically make some sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
And could you explain, because, no, not explain. You said rhyme?
Yep.
Could you spell it, please?
Rhyme is sheer and seer. When those sounds go together like that, different words, but they have many same sounds, that's a rhyme. And I'll put it in the chat. It's R-H-Y-M-E. That's how to spell it, rhyming.
Oh.
And this is Yeah, that's rhyming. I'm sorry if I didn't explain that or if I assumed everybody knew the word. I'm sorry about that.
قافیه میگنی به حساب شعر.
آره.
Is that it?
And yes, again, we say that in Persian or Dari, we say قافیه.
Yes,
that's it.
Yeah.
And we see this. Yeah. We'll look at this, and all languages do this, right? This is where music comes from, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what came first, what came first, music or language? I don't know, right? But the way we think about music now is the pleasing sound of rhymes gives us rhythm, and rhythm is music, right? So I've got lots of examples of poems we'll see. But we'll see words that rhyme, poems that rhyme and don't. Here's another one where even without looking at it, I'll just read, shut it, cut it, live 'em, give 'em, right? We know these rhyme. Sleep and deep in our poem here, our William Stafford poem, rhyming.
And rhyming is, I think it is talking about the end of each line within the stanzas, which will be the same sound.
Yes. Now, not always. Now, again, we'll talk about this next week, Omid, because there's something called internal rhyme, where sometimes there's a rhyme inside the line.
Yes.
But and if in fact, if I'm looking at that Wikipedia that I had up about Persian meter, Persian rhyme, it looks like, in this example that you guys read for me, here we have rhymes inside the line.
Inside, yes.
Right.
I think I think most of the time it comes at the end of the...
Very often. Very, very often. And again, especially music, right? This is music. This is pop songs, right? The rhyme is at the end of the line in pop songs. Absolutely. And again, we'll talk more about rhyme, but it's harder. So we start with some of the more basic stuff,
There is a little bit different as well between the Persian, Dari, and the English. Here, like in English, we consider the vowel, right? Yes. In rhyme, but in Dari and Persian, we don't consider since we don't have the vowel letters. That is why. So just we go through the same sounds.
Okay, remember, and I think you are, yes, Omid, you are right, but let me say this again. One reason that poetry is difficult is when I say vowel, I mean vowel sounds. I don't mean vowel letters, right?
Yeah.
So when you think about this from a linguist's, I studied linguistics. From a linguistic point of view, it's all about the vowel sound. So sheer and, which one?
Sheer
and seer. E is still a vowel sound, regardless of English, Persian, Chinese, whatever. And just if you care, right? A vowel sound means a sound that we make, any human makes, where their tongue is not touching their teeth, their lips, the top of their mouth. Vowel sounds, just make that E, your tongue is right in the middle of your mouth. And that's really different than ba, 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 or t, 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 right? The consonants are when your tongue is touching lips, teeth, or the roof of your mouth. The vowels are when no touching. You're really just using air and your tongue kind of in the middle of your mouth to make the vowel sound. So you're right, Omid. Of course, you don't at all have the same letters, English vowel letters, but those vowel sounds will give you that feeling of the rhyme. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, excellent. But it's excellent. It's really important, the difference. So yes, really good, really good. Amazing. Oh my gosh. Sometimes it's nice to just have little 2-person workshops, Any questions about sound? Because I want to also just quickly introduce symbolism in poetry. So any questions about sound?
No, thank you.
Cool. You'll get to practice it. Okay. So the last thing that I want to introduce that is very, very important in poetry is metaphor and simile, okay? And by the way, metaphor and simile, you will see them again when we read The Lathe of Heaven and when you do your final literary analysis paper. Because all stories, all literature uses metaphor and simile. And here's what that means. A metaphor is a figure of speech that, for rhetorical effect, for style, for feeling, directly refers to one thing as another thing, often by using the verb is. So for example, my heartbeat was a drum. The ice was the blade of a knife. Life is a dream, right? See, that is a verb. My heartbeat was a drum. A simile is a figure of speech that, for rhetorical effect, directly refers to one thing as another thing, comparing it, but instead of just saying it is, we use the word like. Her voice was like a bird's song. His feet felt like heavy stones. Love is like a battlefield. So again, a simile is a little bit more simplistic, right? Excuse me, hold on. Hold on. Yeah, so simile and metaphor. How did I do this? Yes, good. Yeah, okay. Sorry, everybody. So how would I explain this? Remember, simile, I can make this more clear. Simile is when you say like. So this would be, my heart is like a drum, right? And when you use a simile, it's a little bit more simplistic because it leaves the reader, it gives the reader, it emphasizes the new image, right? It emphasizes the drum. So if I say, and I should write the sentence so that it's more clear here. That's what I was getting. Here, the way that, at least for me, native English speaker is going to hear this and poetic sort of analysis when we think about it from the United States. If a sentence is, my heart is like a drum, well, the emphasis is on drum, right? The reader, the listener is going to feel like, okay, drum. And this is a little bit different than when we use a metaphor. When I say, my heart is a drum, no like, right? No comparison. We just say it is this thing. What happens is, sorry, you guys, multitasking, don't do it. In a metaphor, the reader will imagine two separate images, heart, drum, and then combine them mentally into a new image. And this gives us this is a vocabulary that doesn't really matter, but it's juxtaposition. And that means I sort of imagine two things. I say something that's just not true, right? My heart is a drum. Well, that's not true. It's impossible, right? And almost, it's amazing, something in our symbolic brains, something in the way that our brains work, when you say my heart is a drum, internally, we sort of have this new feeling. We almost create our own sense of meaning from the metaphor, right? The metaphor gives us, the listener, the reader, a new feeling when we combine, when we juxtapose those two images. So simile, it emphasizes the thing that you are comparing it to. So again, in these sentences, her voice was like a bird song. The emphasis is on bird song. His feet felt like heavy stones. The emphasis is on the stone. Love is like a battle. The emphasis is on the battle. But here, when I say my heartbeat was a drum, the ice was the blade of a knife, and life is a dream, we put those two images next to each other and something doesn't make sense, right? Like I said, usually there's some subconscious feeling of, but a heart is not a drum. Ice is not a knife, you know? And that's one of the reasons why metaphors are so powerful. And again, all languages have metaphors, you guys. Everybody does this in different ways. But that's why they're so powerful. At least that's the theory, you know, when people who research the effect of literature on sort of human mind, on the human mind and heart, that when you put these two images next to each other, something happens when the brain goes, that's not true. A heart is not a drum. And then we get this new feeling, we get this new image. I got one more slide and then questions. Okay, yeah. Questions about simile and metaphor? So let's look at this poem. Lots of simile and metaphor here, and lots of symbolism. So, let me show you symbolism and then we'll talk about it. Symbols, you already know this from looking at the Pearl, but a quick review of it, right? A symbol is an object, image, word, sound, character, place that represents or stands for a larger abstract idea. A symbol creates a clear and meaningful link between the specific symbol and the abstract idea, right? And I mention this together because often a metaphor can include a symbol, right? Because a drum can be a symbol in this metaphor, right? My heart was a drum, right? Well, here we kind of see that there's this connection between the symbol of the drum and the way that we use it in the metaphor. I think we'll do this kind of analysis quickly here as an example, but we could talk about this in images too, right? So just look at this picture. I'll zoom in. We won't even do it with language first. We see all kinds of possible symbols in this image, right? There's a light, there's a flame, there's a torch here, there's a person in black, there's a bridge, maybe this is a bridge. There's all these different colors going on. And the idea here is that in symbolism, we, as just living human beings, take some meaning from these symbols, right? So how about, could anybody, what kind of, and now we're kind of doing response again, right? What kind of response, reaction do you have to some of these images, you guys? Like, so if we look at the light or the torch, what do we think? What does that symbolize? Or I guess another way.
What does
go ahead, Rafi.
What does?
Well,
I guess torch.
Part of torch is this. Torch is the flame, the fire. The torch is where you have a handle here. You're holding it,
okay.
And then up top is the flame. That's a torch.
It symbolizes like the sexes.
Tell me more.
We can reflect this with the Olympic.
Oh, I love it.
With the Olympic torch as well.
Perfect. Great. And this is all we're doing, right? You're going to start to notice these type of symbols everywhere once we start doing this. So I'll change it to possible meanings, right? So absolutely. So the torch makes me think of success, and it makes me think of the Olympic torch. Good. Anything else, Rafi? Any of these symbols? Like, what possible meanings can we have here?
Maybe a human needs a torch if she or he wants to pass the bridge or go to the bright or colorful, something like that.
Nice.
Light.
Yeah.
Light means victory, something like that.
There we go. Now we're talking. I'm going to delete this row here. Good. I love it. Victory. Yeah.
And the bridge.
Go ahead.
And for the bridge, we can say that connecting communities or the world.
Could be. I love it. Definitely this word bridge and connect, right? Of course, we think, well, what do bridges do? Bridges connect. Absolutely, Omid. Absolutely. How about, what do we think that this person in the image is black, is the darkest image? What do we, any meaning about that potentially?
One of the things that we can take from the dark image of a person, we can say that is coming in my mind right now, it is like unknown.
Anonymous?
Yeah.
They are anonymous. We don't know who they are. Maybe they represent all people or something. They represent anyone, all people. Anonymous just means we don't know who it is. No face. We don't know an American, a Persian, an Afghan, a Mexican. We don't know, right? It's kind of like unclear.
Okay.
Cool. I love it. I'm going to make this a little smaller so it all fits. Good. Anything else?
Maybe person in black. It means without any knowledge, without.
Ooh. I love that. Darkness means without knowledge. This person doesn't have knowledge. Okay, I like that. Again, I'm just kind of formulating this so that it'll look better for you guys when I put it in Canvas. There we go. It's better. Good. I love it. I love it. So some possible meanings. This is the great thing about symbols, right? And again, you've heard me say this when we talked about the pearl. The symbols mean lots of different things to lots of different people, right? So it's not about finding the one true meaning of the symbol. It's about understanding how if you say to me, this symbol represents, or for me, the metaphor means, then you need to be able to say in the poem, in this case, in the image, in the picture, where that comes from. I love this idea we came from. The bridge is connecting people or communities. The person in the black doesn't have knowledge, or they maybe don't know what to go, what to do, but the torch is like a light that can help them achieve victory. Maybe the torch is knowledge that will help them get that victory, whatever, right? I could also say, just for example, maybe for me, now this is Jeff's response, you know, I think the darkness, the person is dark because they're sad, they're scared, or they're confused, they don't know what to do. And the light is like hope or possibility, so that they, if they look up and see the light, they can continue to cross, you know what I mean? We could say from crossing the bridge from sadness into hope. Or I love this, crossing the bridge from knowledge, from not knowing into knowledge, from hard work or difficult times into success and victory, like Omid's example, right? In this example, we only have one picture. So kind of all of our symbolic analysis is right. You know what I mean? There's no right or wrong. When we look at the poems, we just need to make sure that we focus on key words, maybe key sounds, like we talked about, that help give us this deeper feeling that we get from the poem. Right? But so this is what I mean when I talk about symbolic analysis. Maybe we'll start with symbolic analysis more next week, but just for example, before we finish, and then I'll show you what's new in Canvas so you can start to practice this. We won't do the whole poem, you guys, but maybe just as an example, I'll zoom in. When we look at this same poem that we've read a bunch today now, thinking about what we've talked about, metaphor, simile, right, and symbols. What kind of symbols, metaphors, or similes do you see in this poem? And I'll read it one more time. And then maybe each of you can give me just one example. Then we'll look in Canvas and finish up. So what kind of symbols, metaphors, or similes in the dream of now, the last time for today, the dream of now? When you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream, you carry day out of the dark like a flame. When spring comes north and flowers unfold from earth and its even sleep, you lift summer on with your breath, lest it be lost ever so deep. Your life you live by the light you find and follow it on as well as you can, carrying through darkness wherever you go, your one little fire that will start again. What do you think? Symbols, metaphors? There's definitely one simile in here. Let's do the simile. It's the easiest one. Line 3. You carry...
dark like a flame.
There it is. Thank you, Omid. Yeah, you carry day out of the dark like a
flame.
So what's the simile here? Day is like what?
Like a flame.
And notice, remember we said day and flame also rhyme, right?
Yeah.
Day, flay. So here we can absolutely say there's a strong connection. We know that these two words are in a simile together. He says that day is like a flame. And then he chose two words that rhyme, right? So clearly there's some connection here between day and flame, right? Excellent. That's definitely our simile. We have a very clear simile. So how about any other symbols? I mean, and like I said, often when we have a simile or a metaphor, those two things that get compared or connected to each other are symbols. And I think definitely, I'm just going to suggest flame is definitely a symbol in this poem, right? This idea of fire, flame, it keeps coming up in this poem at the beginning and at the end, right?
Can we see spring as a symbol of something we have dream in the future? Because it says when a spring comes north, it means something pleasure happen in the future, flowers unfold.
I think so. I think so. I think you're right. And this was like Omid was saying, in that second stanza, we get spring in the first line, summer in the third, in line 5, right? Spring. In line 7, summer. So there is this growth, there's this change, there's this hope. And of course, we know spring comes after winter. So after winter, spring grows, summer grows. And of course, like we were saying, the flame and the light is an image here. Well, how do things start to grow in spring and summer? What comes back in the spring and summer? The sun, the light, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think absolutely spring and summer are connected to this metaphor, this simile, this symbol of fire, light. I know he doesn't talk about the sun, right? But again, we understand like flame, sun, we can start to make some of these connections from what we already connect to these symbols, right? So here's the question for I'll leave you and then we'll finish up. What's up with the dream in this poem? The title is The Dream of Now. And the first line says, when you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream. So there's this thing about you wake up in a dream, but at night there's another dream. Like, what do you think about that one?
Life?
Go on, say more. You know I want you to say more about that.
Sorry to bother you and ask too many questions. No. Could you say again, please?
There's no right answer. The reason that I can see people like, it's because now we're thinking symbolically, right? My question is just, what's up, right? What's up with the dream? That first sentence, the first two lines, line 1 and line 2, I think are the most interesting in the poem because the meaning is unclear. When you wake to the dream of now from night and its other dream. So it's almost like he's saying, well, life is like you wake up to a dream, but at night there was a different dream. That's almost like this idea of the dream, I think, is really interesting in this poem to me, and especially in those first two lines. Now, Rafi, I'm not saying there's one perfect answer, but I think it's if we talk about symbolic analysis and responding to poems, it's the type of questions, we're going to practice together is like, what's up with the dream? Like, what does that even mean? The dream of now? What's the dream of now? And why is that different than nighttime dreams,
Can I add something, Professor?
Please, of course. Oh my goodness, please get in here.
So regarding the first stanza, I can say that in my opinion, what I'm thinking about is it is the situation of people that when you wake up to the dream of now, it is like about the present time that we are in any situation, like if we are in a good situation or bad situation, but mostly here it is reflecting about the bad situation. Okay. But from night and its other dream, you carry day out of the dark like a flame. Yes. It is about the future and the hope that we have for our future.
Good.
That how goodness will bring us.
When will goodness happen? In which dream? The nighttime dream or the dream of now?
The dream of
now.
The dream of now.
I think so too. Yeah. I think so too. I think so too. I think so too. Right? I think so too. It's almost like, you're right. You carry day out of the dark. So you wake up from a dream into the real dream. Maybe he doesn't say this, right? But the dream of now, reality, this life, right? Like this moment when you wake up and you're alive is kind of like the dream of now, right? And you, out of the darkness, you've got your, like, I love when in the end, when he says you're one little fire, right? Sometimes it's true. Sometimes my fire, my light, my hope, my possibility, it does feel very little, right? But what choice do we have, right? What choice do we have? Yeah, I like that, Omid. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Yeah. Cool. I love it. Any other ideas about the dream or any other last ideas about this poem before we finish up for today? Did you like the poem? I love this poem. It's such a small little poem, but I really love it. There's a few of his poems that I absolutely love. I think he's wonderful. Perfect. Well, I'll show you what to do to practice this stuff next, and we'll just keep talking about this for the next few weeks to get you ready for the poetry project. So here's what's in Canvas. Lesson 9 and 10. That's some of the information that I covered today. That's about the River Speaks, chapter 1 and chapter 2. They're quizzes, but really they're just sort of questions to make sure you understand the main ideas from the reading, okay? And then there's lesson 11 and lesson 12, and let me show that to you. But it's basically, lesson 11 is going to help you practice responding to a poem. So here's the instructions. Like usual, read and review the discussion guideline, blah, blah, blah. It's a small class, so I don't really care that much about the discussion part. Just I want you to post your answer in this discussion assignment. So first, you've got to open our W350 poem document, right? So these are the poems that we're going to use in this class. It just opens to a Google Doc. And then respond to the prompt. Oh, and you need to read the poem Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. That's this poem here, okay? So it's another little shorty. It's a little shorty. So that's this poem, Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. And then you're just going to respond. So as I say here, for this assignment, you'll practice responding to a poem using the 3 response questions from The River Speaks. So do this after you've read the first couple chapters. And then after you've read Fire and Ice, please share your answers for the following questions. What happens to the persona? What happens to the speaker of the poem? What is the central metaphor of the poem? How does the poem end and why does it end this way? This is response, you guys, right? Your feelings, your thoughts, your opinions. This is not poetic analysis yet, okay? Rafi, Omid, questions about number 11?
Oh, no, thank you.
Should be pretty easy, right? Have fun, no wrong answer. I just want you guys to practice writing about poetry, okay? Then we have lesson 12 is about poetic analysis. And here is the instructions for that. So here's the poem, Hope is the Thing with Feathers. This is also in our poetry document, okay? Hope is the Thing with Feathers. Read the poem. I've got audio of me reading the poem for you as well. Okay. So let me fix it. Make sure you're here. Sorry. want to make sure you can hear the pronunciation stuff. I do not know why it made me do that. Oh, it's so frustrating. Okay, take my word. I promise you can listen to me read the poem. It says, read and listen to the poem several times. Once you feel like you found some kind of personal meaning in the poem, I want you to write a 400-word analysis of the poem. So you must analyze the poem for at least 2 of the following poetic structures that we introduced today: alliteration, consonants, assonance, line, caesura, a stanza, caesura, enjambment, symbol, metaphor, or simile. We haven't done rhythm yet, okay? So again, 400 words, really short, but again, just a chance for you to do some really easy practice writing poetic analysis. Now, if you don't have time to do both of these, that's totally fine. We're gonna get more practice doing poetic analysis next week, okay? But if you are ready and you wanna just look at a real poem and do some analysis, you can. There is definitely rhyme in this poem as well. So if you wanted to talk about rhyming in this poem, you could do that too. So that's what's in Canvas, right? Lesson 9 and 10, more help reviewing some of the basic poetry concepts we talked about today. 11 and 12, short little writing assignments to help you practice responding and analyzing poetry. All right, questions before we finish up today, you guys?
No question for the time being, but we will go.
I'll grade your essay tonight, I mean.
Okay, that's good, no problem.
Thank you both. Rafi, it's so good to see you. I hope that you and your family, I hope everything's okay, but I'm really glad to see you again. And thank you both for our little 2-person workshop. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully you guys got some helpful info, okay?
Thank you so much.
We'll see you guys in a week.
Yeah, see you.
Bye.
Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rafi.